have a panel tonight, and they're all women who've been locked up, and they're going to be sharing with you about reentry, okay? And they're going to be asking questions that, as we've been doing this is probably our sixth panel. We have compiled a list of questions that are of interest to you guys, because we know that for some of you, the scariest day, besides coming here, is leaving here. And we have great news, because there are people on the outside who are, man, they're more than making it. They are overcomers. Amen. And we're believing, we want to have these prisons become Bible schools, and we want to clear them out. And so we're believing for a great move of God in the prisons. And so these are some of the women that we are so thankful for and proud of. And Carla, I think you know Carla Hooten. No? Okay, she was our first inside coordinator here at the and CVCA. Worked here when we didn't have a chaplain, when Marlin first opened N1. So she's going to be doing the questions. And so, Carla, it's all over to you.
Okay, thank you, ladies, for coming. Okay, so starting at the far end, I'm just going to introduce everyone. Tawanji, Amanda, Melanie, Lisa, and Tina. And in no certain order, but they represent these units: Murray, Hobby, Woodman, Carroll Young, and Hilltop. And they've all been out at least 3 years, some as many as 6. So, anyway, they're making it out there. Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean they haven't struggled. Doesn't mean that they're still not struggling, but they're making it. So we really hope that this will be helpful to you. So my first question for the panel, and they won't all answer each one, but as it applies, what part does spirituality play in your reentry success?
Spirituality plays a major part in my support system of keeping my journey in this walk. I say that because God is the maker of all, including myself. And so he connects me with the right people. If I don't allow God, my spirituality, to grow stronger with him, then I'll be connected to the wrong people. So it plays a major part in my decision making. I made bad choices because I did not go to him in my past. And now that I've been making connected choices better with him and his advice, then I'll make better choices with who I connect with now.
Spirituality's played a huge role in my recovery. I was an addict for 6 years, and I've been clean 5 years, 2 days ago. And without having a relationship with Christ, I don't think that I could have gotten this far. I also battle depression, kind of the fact that I don't have my kids in my life still. So if it wasn't for me being able to call upon him in those times, I don't think I would have made it. Actually, I know I wouldn't have made it. So it's been huge. It's been everything.
I'm also a recovering addict. If it wasn't for my spirituality and my relationship with God, I wouldn't have stayed clean since I've been out. This is the first time I've ever stayed clean this long, because I've been to state jail 3 times. I can't even tell you how many times I've been to county jail. I've been to SafeP twice, and I've been to prison. I've been on so many probations, and this is actually the first time that I've stayed clean out and I'm off parole.
It's been my foundation, my spirituality. Having that relationship with Christ has been the foundation for me, and that's what has kept me out. You know, sometimes we long for the comfort of being in here, believe it or not, because, you know, we were in the faith-based dorm, and we were surrounded by God. You know, we were just like in that cocoon.
And so when you go out there and you're in the real world, you know, things are happening and coming at you. And so if it wasn't for Christ, there's no way that I could have stayed out either.
For me, spirituality plays a big role. Why? Because through that, I have a relationship with God. And when you have a relationship with God, you want to please God. So in order to please God, you have to do what's pleasing to God, which is the things that will keep you free. And just to say the least. But also in having a relationship with God, to keep that, you know, part of that is having a relationship with my church. So I have to, you know, when I'm in church, I serve in my church. So you can't serve in the church and party and club. I mean, you're not going to even want to get up to go and serve. So you have to live a clean life if you're serving. So for me, that is what keeps me in the right way. My relationship with God, my relationship with my church, and my relationship with serving. And all of that is spiritual, and it keeps me anchored.
Thank you. Okay, what have been your greatest challenges since you've been released?
One of my greatest challenges is that you cannot make up for lost time. The first thing you do when you get out, you want to try to make up for lost time with your kids, with your family, if you have some issues with your parents, but you can't. You have to really seek God's face and let him guide you in the forgiveness, acceptance. Sometimes he restores things, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he moves you to new things. You have to really seek him. But that was a struggle because, of course, as a mom, you want to try to redeem that time. You want to make it better, but you can't. All you could do is start fresh and new, trust God, seek him, and allow him to start your fresh and new beginning the right way.
My greatest challenge, I'd have to say, is not being with my children. I only get to see them once every 2 years, if that. They're out of state. So trying to stay grounded and connected when you're going through something like that has been really hard. There are times that I've wanted to just scream at the world and go back to my old ways. But I don't, and also staying hopeful that this is not the way that my life is supposed to be, nor is it the way my kid's life is supposed to be. So not giving up hope, not being with my children, and kind of letting go of the shame and the regret that we all face when we get out of here. I mean, it's pretty tough. So trying to let go of that has been a struggle, probably one of the most, I guess, harsh struggles that I've gone through. But yeah, that's it for me.
Wow, the list goes on and on. I'm going to name several. One is, well, my kids, they're grown now, but it was very hard for me to not do the guilt parenting. Like, it's hard for me not to be their friend or to be their parent. And because I haven't been there, honestly, my mom basically raised my kids, so it's hard for me to find my place in their life on what role I'm supposed to play. I know I'm not supposed to be their friend, but I gave up the rights to being a mother a long time ago, so that's been hard. And also, I was the type of person that always had to be in a relationship. I was always with a man, always, always. If I was out there, I had a boyfriend. And I haven't had one since I've been out of prison because I refused to settle. But I do battle being lonely, And it's like, okay, God, when you're going to send me that man, it's a hard one. I've also, just to be honest, it's hard for me to find someone to rent to me because of my felonies. I actually had an apartment. I talked to the lady about my past and what I was doing now. I'm going to school to be a drug counselor, and she wanted to give me a chance, and she did. And then the apartments were bought out by somebody else. And when my lease was up, they made me reapply and denied me. So that's been a struggle. And also, I lost my dad 2 months ago. And being an addict, I wanted to medicate that pain. But I had to play the tape out and remember that drugs never solved anything. It temporarily, I know, would have taken the pain away. But today's my dad's birthday, and it's been hard for me today. But I know that using drugs is not the answer. So I do struggle with those thoughts still.
I think one of the biggest challenges for me has been, of course, trying to find a job. But the biggest one for me was going through divorce. I had to face reality and realize that the marriage that I was in was not where I needed to be. That's what helped me get to prison. And so, in order for me to be in God's will, in order for me to do what God had proposed for me to do, I needed to let some things go, and that was one of them. And it was the hardest thing because facing that divorce was like saying that I was a failure. And but God, told me that's not who I am. God cherishes me, and He cherishes all of us. And the world tells us, that we're this and we're that, but God tells us that we're His cherished, we're His beloved. And I had to go through a really hard time, and I was faced with depression, I was faced with oppression, not only in my personal life, but in my job. And giving that to God and going through a program at my church, I was able to let go of all the junk that God was asking me to let go of. And now I've really grown in the past 6 months, and it is, it's just awesome.
Okay, am I at home? Am I like with my family, my sisters, so I can just say what? So, okay, I will have to say that for me, the big struggle is celibacy. It's celibacy and waiting on God for a husband. Why? Because we don't like to talk about this. As women, it's easy to be celibate in here. It should be easy to be celibate in here. But when you get out there, the guys are going to give you attention. You're going to see someone that you're interested in. You might even start dating, but you have to maintain being celibate. You do. So you have to have controls in place for that, and that's been an area in my life that, I'm more disciplined in. I will say that I had a child out of wedlock that had far-reaching consequences because I'm raising a child by myself. So, I'm real careful in that area. I'm real careful with letting people into my life, and I'm a single woman and I'm celibate, and have been that way for some time, but it was hard. And it still is hard. And, I get people say, oh, God is going to send you your husband and he's on the way. And I'm like, is he crawling from Africa? Because he should be here now. Can we go pick him up, God? But anyway, I'm just saying, it's rough. But I'm being honest. That's something that you're going to have to deal with. Being celibate, being single, and waiting on God. Because you can choose the wrong situation and have far-reaching consequences. So let him crawl on from Africa.
Okay, so ladies, how have you maintained your sobriety?
Anytime I have the urge, I play the tape out, always, always, always. And I have a support network. I'm a part of a group called the Dallas Winner's Circle. Also, Fort Worth has a Winner's Circle now, too. I have women in my corner that I can call that I want to be like them. They've been clean longer than me, and they've been doing this longer than me. So I have a support network of females, very important females that are more mature in their walk with Christ. And I always just tell myself, drugs always got me back in prison, and I don't want to let my family down. Journaling and exercising.
You've heard that saying, change people, places, and things. That's exactly what I did. The second I got out, within a week of someone coming, within a week of me going home, I had someone knocking on my door to get me high. And so it was important for me to not be, to not put myself in that situation, because you can say all day that you won't do it again, but you never know what you're going to do until you're in a situation. So I do not allow myself to get in those situations. I literally became a hermit in my home for probably the first 6 months, just because I didn't want to be tempted by my friends or people that were still using. I got into recovery. I started surrounding myself with like-minded people, people that had come out on the other side of recovery and were making it. And it's kind of sad because there's people that we've been friends with for our lifetime, but if they're not going in the same direction that you're going, you just have to let them go, and you have to literally lock the door on that relationship, because I'm one of those people that I don't want to say I'm impressionable, but I like to please people. And so when I'm around people and they're having a good time, I kind of feel like I got to be that girl too. So it's real important for me to not surround myself with anybody that was using. And one of the other important things that I thought about a lot when I was incarcerated is the kind of mother that I wanted to be to my kids. And I remember the first couple of weeks of sitting in prison wondering how I'd got there, you know, that whole why me thing. And I thought about my kids, and I thought about the kind of mother that they deserved. And so anytime in the past 5 years that I've thought about getting high, I look at it like this. I put my kids in one hand, and I put the drugs or the needs or the wants or whatever in the other hand. And now that I've had a clear mind for so long, I'm always going to choose my kids. And so every day, any day that I struggle with that, I think about my kids, and I think about the kind of mom that they deserve, and I'll never, ever, ever pick up again because of that, because of them.
I really have to share this because this is like so practical and whereas you can just walk in it. For me, like my drug of choice was promethazine with codeine, you know, syrup. Everybody knows it as syrup. And Xanax. So I was sedated and calm all the time, you know, sometimes sleep even, you know. But here's the deal. The lifestyle that I live now, I can't do that with it. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm working, I'm functioning, I'm serving, I'm doing this. So my lifestyle combats that. And that's what you have to do. You have to develop a lifestyle that is not gonna allow that, you know. Maybe if you get a job, you know, if you know you might have some cravings or whatever you do, you know, you get a job, they're gonna do random drug tests. So you are automatically know you can't do drugs, you can't smoke marijuana. And through that discipline, you'll come to not liking it and not wanting it anymore. And for me, you know, I can't take pills. I can't do any of that kind of stuff. You know, I don't want to, but I can't because I can't do that, the type of life I live. So it's important to build a successful life, and it will separate you from destruction and destructive habits.
For me, it's knowing and believing for myself that I'm no longer that person anymore. I don't drink anymore. I've been sober for 10 years. And, you know, it's a very big thing within my family. But I had to set my boundaries with my family and let them know who I am. And I don't drink anymore. And, you know, when I go to family functions and they're drinking and stuff like that, you know, when I was going through my divorce, yes, I had that temptation, you know, had the enemy, you know, shooting those darts, telling me I'm going to go out there and I'm going to party, I'm going to go back to the club. But I had to remind myself that's not who I am. You know, I'm a child of Christ now, and it's for me to stay sane and sober. And I thank God for keeping me sane and sober-minded every day.
Okay, what has been your experience in finding a job?
It was very hard because, you know, I worked for the state of Texas for 17 years. I worked with MHMR. And it was very hard for me because, you know, I was the person that was in charge, you know, that was my mentality. So when I came out, it was hard for me because I had a really good resume, but I couldn't get any of the jobs that I was interviewing for because of my background. It wasn't at the 7-year point, or, you know, they just didn't hire felons. So I had a friend that lived, you know, in the same city. And she told me about Goodwill and about their program. They help felons. They do second chance. So I went and I applied to go to their school. And so when I went to their school, in turn, they gave me a job. So I would work and pay for my school. But then once I was there, I met other people, and they talked about a program for those that were recently released from incarceration. So I got in that program, and they paid for my school. So I went through the school. They allowed me to work for them for a year. Once I did that, I got out, and then I went to go apply for one of their positions. They had already hired somebody, so they asked me to do a transitional position in their school. So I took that position. I worked with them. They got a new campus manager. When she came in, she made a position for me, and so that's where I've been since I got that job.
Okay, I really want to share this with y'all, and this is what you got to do. You got to start small. This happened on 2 instances where I ended up, when I got out, I got the first job that I applied for. That might not happen every time, but the strategy that you use is you start at the bottom and you can work your way up. Both jobs that I've been at, the entire 6 years I've been out, the job that I started at, it didn't matter about my background, the position that I started at. You get what I'm saying? But the position that I'm in now, or the position I ended up at, they did do background. But once you're in, 3 years later, they're not going to be thinking about a background and going pulling your application. They're going to say, oh, well, she applied for the position, you interview for it, and then you get the job. That's how you have to do it. It started with me. I was working as in a warehouse packing tortillas, and I ended up being part of the management team, whereas I was hiring ex-offenders and doing roundtables with the board of directors with the mayor of Heath. I mean, come on now. And everybody else that came in were getting interviewed and getting background checks, but I went the back route. The job that I have now, my replacement, I mean, they had to do a background check on her, but I handle all of their money. I go in the safe. I do all of that. But I went the back route. I started in transportation where they didn't even worry about your background. And when it was time for me to interview for the big position, all I did was interview. I already had an application. So start at the bottom and just creep around,
Well, for me, prior to being incarcerated, I worked for myself. Being an entrepreneur, it is not for everybody. However, sometimes people can discover while they are incarcerated that they do have gifts and skills and talents that they can pursue being an entrepreneur. However, you want to consider going and getting further training, seeking out the proper resources to do that, but do try to find other employment because you can't just start a business with nothing. And typically people don't want to just give you some money just because you have a talent and a skill. They want to see that you want to sow into yourself as well. So, sometimes, like she said, you have to start low, take a position, humble yourself, build up, prepare, seek God's face, and then prepare yourself for the greater thing that God created you for.
Melanie? No? Okay. Since your release, what have you done about transportation?
Okay, when I first started, or when I first was released, I didn't have a vehicle or anything like that, so I had to ride the bus. I had to learn how to ride the bus. While I was going to school, I worked in the same store that I was going to school at, but then in the middle of it, they moved us like clear across the city, and it was like a 3-hour ride on the bus. So I had to do that commute every day, and while I was incarcerated, I broke my leg, so that was a problem. Not really. It was a big barrier for me because I didn't have full use of my leg. So I just had to learn how to get on the transit system. And, I'm blessed to be able to share that with the people that I work with in the school because they're also being released from incarceration. And so I share that with them to give them hope, to push themselves, to say, because they'll come out and they'll say, oh, I got to ride the bus, blah, blah, blah. I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I did it for a year. So if I can do it, you can do it too.
Well, I too rode the bus, and I mean, it wasn't a pleasant ride, because I didn't want to ride the bus. I just didn't want to. And I will tell you, the first time I got on the bus, this is a true story. It was like I was having an anxiety attack. That pride started kicking in, that anxiety. And I'm like, man, the bus driver literally said, ma'am, no one is going to do anything to you, But I had to do it, guys, and my friend was not on the bus route. I had to walk a long way, almost a mile. Dogs would chase me. I still have the dog bites on my leg. I promise you, real dog bites. But that's just how bad I wanted it. So, because it's not going to come easy, and the unrealistic expectation that everything is going to be laid out for you to walk in success will cause you not to walk in success. So, whatever it takes, do it. If it takes riding the bus, walking a mile, get up extra early. I used to be sweating so bad till I had to wrap a head rag around my head and wear it because my hair would have been sweating out. They started recognizing me as the lady with that head rag, that lady with that bun, for real. But here's the deal, I wanted it, And God bless me with a car later. I can ride with my AC and I don't have to do all that. But I had to go through the process.
Transportation was not a long-term struggle for me, but I did start out having to do a lot of walking, but I perfected that on hobby unit. From the child hall to church to visits. So I had to do some walking, and I needed to stay in shape because I got kind of fine in prison. And I didn't want to go home and not be fine. So I was encouraged by my journey of walking. And so walking is good for you if you do have something you want to accomplish. Like my class I had to take was not far from my mom's home. So why would I want to wake up my support system to drive me around the corner when I could just walk around there? When I used to walk to visitation and she would drive miles to come see me. So sometimes the great exchange you might want to do.